So it looks like one more person needs to turn their video off.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can take my
Do you
video.
mind turning it off? And then if you have something to say, turn the video on.
Okay.
Got it? Good? All right. Thank you. So it looks like there's still a few people who have not arrived yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and check the participation list. So Anne is here, but the video is off. Okay. And Tina is here. Before it looked like she wasn't. Yeah, I see that Talia won't be here. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed at 6:06, calling the meeting to order. My name is Rain DePucat. I'm the chair for this committee. We'll go ahead and get started. So far, we haven't had approved any meeting minutes from the first or second meeting. So I think we should go ahead now and finish that part. I know there's some people that aren't here, so we can proceed with that. So Bethany, do you mind sharing screen with those minutes?
Which ones would you like first? Would you like the March 1st or April? Which would you prefer?
Let's start with March, the first meeting, and then we'll proceed to the April meeting.
I apologize. This is the agenda. Give me one moment. There we go.
Go ahead and ask the committee members to look over the minutes and wait as we scroll. I'll let you know, Bethany, when we're ready to scroll. Just a minute. Okay, you can go ahead and scroll up. Okay, good. So when we finished reading and you're ready to vote, should we vote in chat or with turning on our videos? I see Tina says that she approved in the chat. I see Drew has also agreed in the chat. We have 2. I see Tina says that she wrote them. So we got that. and Amy has approved. So we're waiting for Anne. I know sometimes Anne has a little bit of a delay, so let's give her an extra minute. So I'm not seeing a response from Anne. Who we do not have here would be include Jen. She's not here. And also Talia. So the two of them can't vote because they're not here. Out of those who have voted, we only have no response from Anne. Maybe can we check with Anne to make sure that she can see the meeting? I'm just going to give her a quick message. I can't send a direct message. It's closed.
I'm going to make you co-host, Rains, so you will be able to. One moment, please. You should be all set, Rain.
Let me just check.
And chats that she approves the minutes. She has direct that to me.
I'm just concerned if we're spotlighting me, then the interpreters are very small. That doesn't actually solve the problem.
You would need to change your viewpoint to gallery view. I have removed the spotlight from you.
Okay, so if any of you want to see the 4 boxes videos, you have to go back to a gallery view again. Okay. All right, so it looks like all have approved the minutes, so we can move on from that. And now we'll go on to our second meeting minutes from our meeting in April. Can we enlarge? Oh, perfect. Good. Thank you.
Just let me know when you would like me to scroll down.
I think we can go ahead and scroll down to the numbers because the top part here is pretty standard. Okay, good. We can scroll up if we're ready. Good. I think we need to see all of number 7. Yeah, from the beginning there. Good. You can scroll up. When we're finished, do you mind scrolling back to the top? I think I've finished reading. Have everyone else? Are you all set? Anyone oppose? It looks like everyone is fine. We can scroll back to the top. So in the chat, Holly has stated that she was not there for that meeting. And she is listed. That. So that's one error. Second, oh. Amy said that her name is spelled wrong on number 7. Another question from Talia in the chat.
From Tina.
From Tina in the chat. Said that she wasn't sure about the public comment section. Should she name the people who made comments, or would it just be under public comments? I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest. So I think we'll say just public comment at this point, but maybe we should ask to be able to clarify. Ernest? Yes, if it's
For public comment, yes, you can put the name of the person who stated it. Thank you.
So just to clarify, from here on out, when people from the public comment, we should note their name in the minutes and what they said. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you. So far we have an approval from Drew with the stated edits. And Amy has said that she approves as well with those edits. I'm just scrolling through my chat box. Tina, did you approve? Yes, I see that Tina did approve. Approved with edits. Okay, So I think we're all set with that for the minutes for now. Now we can go back to the agenda. Do you mind scrolling up a little bit? Just waiting for Bethany to scroll up on the agenda.
Do you mean scroll down? Like,
Yes, good. Bold right there. So we've approved the minutes and we had 2 meetings, so it was a little more than normal. So now moving on to my report. First, I wanted to say that this committee, they won representation from RIRID. So I asked RIRID meeting, they asked me to go and give them a report and inform them, which I did. I explained what it looks like and everything that was going on. A few people at RIRID said that they wanted to be able to watch the recordings of the meeting. And Holly was there and did say when that recording will be available, which was great. RIRID wanted to make sure that we knew about the information about the referrals, and that was included, and we said yes. We did have that paper, and RIRID had said that anyone who is in support of providing that they were in support. So we depend on their advice for what we're allowed to do following RID. I do. Just to clarify, that's on me. But for this committee, I'm representing RIRID and not myself.
Sometimes I do represent both myself and RIRID, so I have two roles. However, I'll be clearly saying I'm representing RIRID, or if I'm representing myself, I will clearly mark who I will be representing when I am stating something. So far, there hasn't been anything that would require me to do that, but if something does come up, I will let you know who I'm speaking on behalf of. So they do post these meetings on the internet, on the commission website. And I do have a link that I can send to you if you all don't have it. I was sent the link and I had watched it. Seems there are a lot of people in the community who want to watch these meetings, excuse me. So usually interpreters themselves who are looking forward to watch these meetings, which is pretty great. You know, and I always try to encourage them to come to the meetings and make public comments. Those in the deaf and hard of hearing communities, they say that, you know, they are aware of this committee, so we're trying to encourage them to join in on this community as well. one concern that did come up is if a deaf person in the community, in the Rhode Island community, wanted to contact the committee and share their testimonial, they could come here and they could do that. We've already seen some people in the last meeting state that in the comments they didn't feel comfortable doing so. They didn't feel comfortable coming to the meeting and being able to voice their concerns, or maybe they weren't available at the meeting time. So we're trying to collect all of the information, whatever the commission asks in terms of problems that arise in terms of the interpreting referral. The commission wants to be abreast of that. So we're trying to collect all this information out from the community and give it to the commission. So far, that's what we've heard throughout the community so far. People are interested in the meeting, even though they're not here. They do watch the recordings of it. Seems like they look forward to it as well. So we've had 2 meetings so far, and in regards to the minutes, it was Tina who had taken the past 2 meeting minutes, the 2 prior meetings. However, we did state we were going to take turns doing that. I had asked if anybody was interested and nobody came forth. So I know it's a lot of responsibility, or more responsibility, and understandably, you might not want to do it. We do have the CART transcript. You can take notes during the meeting, or maybe read the CART afterwards, and then we could summarize from there. However, we do need someone to volunteer for the next meeting minutes. And like I said before, once you volunteer, you don't have to just do it for each meeting, but we are going to take turns with this. We need someone to volunteer for next meeting. So now public comment is open. We do have some people here from the public. Bethany, would you mind stop sharing the agenda? Thank you. We do have 2 public comments. So we'll have 2 opportunities to give public comments. We will do it at the beginning and at the closing. So if I don't feel like this is your only chance and you have to come on screen now, we will give in 2 opportunities to have public comments. So if anybody would like to state something, you can put your camera on. I will call you, and one hearing interpreter will go off screen, if I'm right, because I believe you can get up to 4 squares on a team. So hearing interpreters, do you need one team to stay on, or can we do one interpreter go off? I'm just checking with the interpreters. The interpreter said, that's fine. We can change how we work. We can take one interpreter off, that's fine. So if it doesn't work, just let me know. So we'll leave the interpreter for clarification. Can you see me? Hold on one second. This is where you can make your comment. Do you have concerns? If you do, this is the time you should share them, because this is open to the public right now. So if you'd like to comment, you can go ahead. And then when you make your comment, put your screen off. Am I clear? Mm-hmm.
So I can go ahead and
Hold on one moment. Could you change the orientation on your phone, please, so that it's landscape mode and not, it's so hard to see when it's. That's better. That's better.
So I had a meeting back on May 6th, and it was a union meeting, and I was there to work with supporting my rights, but there was no interpreter there for this meeting. So the union had said that they called Rhode Island Commission, and there were 2 interpreters remote. One was in Rhode Island and one of them was somewhere else, but I was wondering why. It seemed like a waste of time because there was not, everything was not fully available. So back on May 6th at 9 a.m., I had a meeting with the union. There was some frustration because no interpreters showed up. Rhode Island Commission said that they had interpreters, but the 2 interpreters decided to back out last minute. One of them was from Rhode Island and another one was from Connecticut.
That's right.
I don't understand why that happened. It seemed like they wasted my time.
Right, and the union actually had contacted CDHH, and there was plenty of time in advance. But it seems like CDHH said there was none available. You can't do that.
Just in addition, the request was sent to the Rhode Island Commission well in advance of the meeting, and there was plenty of time to find interpreters. So there was, to say no interpreters were available, it shouldn't be the case. They should have found interpreters in that time.
And Rain is saying, would you mind if I asked some clarifying information?
Sure.
Charlie, if you could help clarify. So we understand there were no interpreters available. Do you know who the interpreters were? Whatever, when the 2 interpreters that dropped out of your assignment, the one from Rhode Island and Massachusetts, did you know who they were? Did anybody tell you who they were?
The union said that they had that paperwork. I could ask it from them and to give it to you.
Well, I was just wondering, because sometimes there's a problem where deaf people assume they have interpreters, but no interpreters have been confirmed. Or maybe you think that they've been concerned and that they've been confirmed, but then they didn't show up. So that's why I was trying to clarify. But it seems like your union had gotten the confirmation. And you said that they had that information, the confirmation. Yes. Okay. And no interpreter showed up. What happened?
Shortly before May 6th, the commission contacted the union and said that the interpreters dropped out. And it was a very last minute, and so it threw off all the plans. There was no reason that was stated, so I don't know why. Maybe the interpreters didn't want to do it because they thought it was high stakes in court, but it wasn't exactly court. We needed certified interpreters.
So no interpreters showed up that day.
Exactly.
Okay. We're collecting this information. If there's any problems or concerns, we're trying to improve the system and coming up with ways to do that. So in your experience, I know it's quite frustrating that no interpreter showed up for your union hearing, but do you have any idea on how we could improve for the future? What's your solution?
I think everything was done the best as possible. There was plenty of time given. There's plenty of time given to find interpreters who would be available and to assign them to the job with that schedule and confirm them. There was plenty of time that was given, so it should have worked.
So it seemed like everything was lined up. It was just the interpreters that backed out that was the problem. Okay. I'm wondering why the interpreters backed out of the job, or why would they do that such last minute? But I will document this, and we will talk about this with the committee and see what we can do. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Go ahead and go off screen, and then if you want to say something again later on, you're more than welcome to come back on screen.
Okay.
Yep.
So I should turn it off now?
Go ahead, put your screen off. Yeah. Perfect. Are there any other comments? I'll wait a minute or two and give people time if they'd like to make a public comment. If there are no other public comments right now, we'll move forward with the agenda. So we'll continue with the committee members and our information that we've comprised, and we will continue to share that. We are collecting information and concerns from the community, and we will continue to do so. So we will be collecting all of this for a while now. Now we're going to open this to the committee. So if anybody would like to speak, or if anybody wanted to speak on terms of in regards to what the community has told you and what their experiences have been, and you want to anecdotally put that forward, you can put your screen on. Amy.
Hi. I do have one comment that someone had relayed to me. It was experience that they had a few weeks ago, and they've had experienced it a few times. They had showed up at a doctor's office and without an interpreter. It was for a pediatric appointment. And so they ended up having to write back and forth during the appointment. And at that time, they did request an interpreter for the appointment, but there was 2 times in a row, it was a Thursday and a Friday, that they had to see, okay, which one will I find an interpreter? So they had both on the schedule. The issue that I am noticing that's happening out there in the community, and I also personally have experienced, is when you have an interpreter for appointment, you ask them and they said, well, the doctor's office, well, we called them, but they never hear back from the commission. We sent them a message, we never heard back. They never call back. And it's not really to have the doctor's office staff let us know. And like, how do I deal with that when that's what we hear from the medical facilities? And a lot of deaf people in the community are feeling the same type of pushback from offices. Is that clear?
Pretty clear to me. So you're saying that providers, when you go and you request an interpreter, they state that the CDHH referral service never contacts them back.
Providers themselves and the staff within the medical office, they're typically a little frustrated when we say, don't forget to call the commission, or, if the interpreters say, like, please let the commission know, or the patient themselves, the deaf person, whoever needs the interpreter, all three will get that message that they don't want to deal with the commission. And it's frustrating, and it's not, especially how do we respond, especially as deaf people in the community, to get their rights without making it look like, how do we explain ourselves when, you know, the person specifically says they don't want to deal with them?
I wonder if you have any examples, like if they call or fax, or how are they contacting the commission?
I
You're
can
not
give you
sure?
my personal experience. I went to a doctor's office one time, and I had gone ahead of time with an interpreter, and the interpreter had talked to the secretary about, let's go ahead and call the commission and confirm that I have someone for the next day. And she said, no, what for? You're here now. So I feel like the commission never calls us back anyway. So, and I didn't respond at the time. So, and the interpreter was a little like, ooh, so, I mean, I don't want to add meaning to her facial expression, but.
So it seems like I'm just trying to figure out what communication mode works best.
And yeah, in that example, it was a phone call. There's a lot of people in the community who, you know, they send a request and they want to hear back right away. They want to know that the commission received the request and are looking. They want to know where it is in that status. So they haven't received a confirmation of the request, and I guess they're not sure if anyone's going to show up because of that.
That helps me put things into perspective. Thank you. Do you have any other comments?
No, not at this time.
Is there anybody else who would like to make a public comment? Oh, Drew.
Sure. For you to use a name sign for that reason, right? So I've talked to some people, friends, and a lot of them say, yes, you know, they don't bother making an appointment anymore with an interpreter. They just go to appointments and write back and forth. They say it's impossible to find an interpreter. Doctors' offices beforehand say, oh, we don't even want to deal with that process. And I mean, my husband has said he just uses his phone and does voice to text captioning. And when he does go, often the doctor says, we don't want to do a meeting without an interpreter, and they'll cancel it even though we're there in person. They say, no, this is my appointment. It's my choice to go ahead without an interpreter, but they're liable as well. And so, you know, it did go to a doctor's office. I called to make an appointment. And it did say, you know, we really do struggle with getting interpreters in general, just to let you know. And so I was honest with them, and I said, so you're saying that you don't recommend me coming to this office because I'm deaf? And they said, well, we didn't exactly say that, but it won't be in your best interest. And so I was surprised, and I, you know, at least 4 or 5 different clients, they said they've had come, they called for interpreters and there was never an interpreter. And they said they wouldn't get a referral number, or they would say, oh, we'll check, what's your referral number? And they said, well, we never got anything. And as a consumer, I don't have anything to follow up myself either. So both of us were like, okay. And they said, so we can call, but anyway, it's a consistent message. A lot of friends say the same thing. They just go ahead with appointments and don't expect to have be taken serious with getting an interpreter. And if that's a major concern, it's not fair that there's not that kind of access and that amount of wait, and having to call through a video phone or whatnot.
So from both the provider standpoint and the deaf patient standpoint, it seems like you both don't know what's going on. you mentioned before, like with a deaf person, like nobody knows what's going on, whether it's the medical provider or the deaf person. So, Drew, do you have anything further you'd like to state?
Yes, hi. I wanted to add to what Drew and Amy both had commented. Amy and I were talking about this issue with interpreters, right now, specifically during COVID. And to be honest, maybe in the community, you're lucky to have an interpreter show up and to be able to be in agreement with the provider with timing for a schedule. But letting the commission know, sometimes
Usually the providers would direct book with interpreters, and then they don't see the point of letting the commission know if there's a direct book. What's the point?
But then they also don't want to lose the statistics that they weren't booked through the commission. And so sometimes you want the more statistics, then there's more funds. And I think part of it is that the community, they know where interpreters can be found and they'll direct book. They want no part of interacting with the commission. And that lowers the confusion in that process. And some interpreters prefer going through the commission, but that can also cause communication problems and people are miscommunicating because there's more people involved. So I know it's not the best, but that is one way to reduce confusion and that the community can kind of take back their power. So that's just my 2 cents.
Bonnie, I understand what you're saying. I understand that some people don't even want to work with the commission. So, and that's one of your ideas, right? So how can we look at the commission and make it more successful? How can we improve? Do you have any ideas?
I think being more timely and responding within 24 to 48 hours. If there's a referral and, or if someone's out sick, to have a specific backup plan that goes right into place so that we can respond accordingly. There's no reason that you're waiting a week to 2 weeks of, oh, sorry, I was out sick, or there was no one in the office, or any of those excuses. Oh, we didn't have an interpreter. But it's not fair to be making people wait. If there's a specific serious medical issue, they need to know as soon as possible. And so a person could be in a life-threatening situation and they shouldn't have to be waiting. I think all should be treated with respect and equality and have that equity and access. And you should, wherever you're coming from, be able to get a response in a timely manner, period. Whatever, to the consumer, to the provider. And that's just an ongoing problem and a concern that we need to solve this or something bad would happen. Rhode Island could be the next, state of Connecticut. I don't know if you're aware, or maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the governor decided to just completely close the Connecticut Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. They spent all this time and funds, and the result of that, I think there was 30 interpreters lost their job. And there's no commission for the deaf and hard of hearing in Connecticut. And I'm concerned what that might do in Rhode Island.
Understandably. Thank you for sharing your ideas. Thank you. Switching out, Amy?
Sure, I just want to add to what Bonnie shared. I know there's several issues with some interpreters that being out and being patients themselves and increased of health issues. And I think some of that is medical neglect. And how do we fix that? Just another thing to think about. The second thing is I wanted to think on the topic that we did hear about something recently. Apparently, there was one interpreter who's retired, and the interpreter who retired worked with DCYF and had taken a lot of jobs. And now, who is going to interpret those? There's a lot of people who don't have NPA and they feel like it's not reflective of who they are as an interpreter. And I'm concerned about that because I really value all of the interpreters, and seeing interpreters feel, oh, how is this going to make me look bad, or being double booked, and all of those other factors for whatever reason it could be. But how do we look at this crisis that we have right now within DCYF, and a deaf person shows up in a house and the person themselves, you know, they need an interpreter, they need a deaf interpreter. How do we handle this situation? You know, if we have to wait several weeks to get an interpreter in Rhode Island, and
we only have 1 or 2 legal interpreters in Rhode Island.
And specifically within DCYF and the NPA. So I guess my point is that something that we need to look at is looking at the interpreters and how we can effectively have a backup plan for legal situations, especially, you know, if there's something in person that, you know, we can only hold a person up to a certain amount of hours. I think it's 48 hours. I could be wrong exactly on the time frame, but what do you do when someone is arrested in that situation? Is that clear?
Yeah. So I did want to clarify one thing. The MPA list, I had researched it myself, and it's really not easy to find interpreters. It's not easy to find the list. It's easy to find interpreters, but where's the MPA list for interpreters? That's not easy to find. Luckily, I had Pam at the commission help me. She knew where to find it, and she sent me the link. Also, she had stated, I think Bethany was working on the website, currently working on the website and trying to make a better list of interpreters. I think that would be very helpful. I want to know how many interpreters are on the MPA. I know one issue that's come up in this committee is that they can't get interpreters, especially for MPA jobs. So for example, college and the like. So I feel like there's not enough interpreters in Rhode Island in general, but on the MPA, it's even worse. It's even worse off. So I mean, the link that Pam had sent me, I pulled up, I want to say there were about 20 interpreters on that list. And all of those, out of those 20 interpreters, they're not all freelancers. So the list is even more limited. So Rhode Island in general is already limited in terms of their pool of licensed interpreters, and then how many freelance interpreters, and then how many freelance MPA interpreters. It just continues to get smaller and smaller. So some of the problem that I know most of us already know, and interpreters we know, and all deaf and hard of hearing people know, but interpreters in Rhode Island, licensed interpreters in Rhode Island, and to get licensed, to first get a license is daunting. It's a strenuous process. It's very challenging. I'm not sure why. It's just, it is what it is. So that's the first barrier to work in Rhode Island. The second barrier is the MPA. The MPA itself is, it's not like other states. Rhode Island's MPA is very different and it's complicated. And it seems like there's so much you have to do to get your documents in order and to get added to the list for an MPA. So it just happened with one interpreter. They wanted to work in Rhode Island, which is great. You know, we have one more interpreter in Rhode Island, but then they went to get on the MPA and it took months. They took months before they got in the MPA. And I'm not blaming the commission. It's just the process itself of how to go about getting qualified to be an MPA interpreter. There's many barriers throughout the process. So we interpreters know the MPA, and the price doesn't really reflect our field, the pay rate. And then to become an MPA interpreter, it's just an arduous process. So Rhode Island's dwindling interpreters. There's very, very few interpreters available to do work. At the same time, those interpreters don't really want to be involved with the MPA. So we have, I think you're right, it's a crisis that we have on our hand in terms of medical and legal. Currently, Rhode Island court, legal interpreters don't require an MPA. And many of those interpreters who have such rich experience and come to Rhode Island to work only come to work in court. They don't come to work in the community. It's not worth it. In terms of the MPA, it's not worth it for them. So my question in terms of DCYF, I assume DCYF is under the MPA.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
they require the MPA, but not to mention, you know, how many interpreters have the MPA, but also have legal certification. And again, it's more of a, you know, going into a home for an interview, like, why do you need the legal? You know, if you're going to court, it's clear, but the process is very complex. And sometimes it's just the initial visit. It shouldn't be required that it's a legal interpreter, because we can't do anything without them there. So then the next visit, if it's determined that we're going to remove the children, then that means we would need a legal interpreter. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying. So there are only a few interpreters who work freelance in Rhode Island, but are they all qualified to work in DCYF? No matter if they're legal interpreters or not, that's a specific kind of work and specialized, right? And you're going to need an interpreter with a deaf interpreter, or should use a deaf interpreter. I know that DCYF does not use the referral. I know that they private book through their own MPA interpreters. So one of our notes should be to look into that. Look into why DCYF doesn't book through the commission and maybe start there. We could maybe then grow the pool of interpreters who are able to interpret for DCYF. If it's legal, the legal interpreters in the state of Rhode Island, most of them are not on the MPA. So it's just, it's a conundrum with DCYF. Many of those legal interpreters already have said, I'm not going on the MPA, I'm not doing it. And if all they do is they look at the MPA and they read how required it is in terms of what they have to submit, and they don't do it. So I think, so for right now, we're going to have to research. Part of it is availability. Part of it is the commission referral process. And also there are other problems too. We're going to just have to research for more information. Bonnie?
Yeah, I want to add to that. Up to this point, there's been a lot of news about DCYF around the country and a lot of suits that have gone on and litigation. So I'm wondering, within the Rhode Island Commission, is it not really, going ahead and active in calling meetings with DCYF, and the commission's not explaining that process to DCYF about what to do, what's legally required, when and why you need a legal interpreter, and when it clearly you do need a legal interpreter, because I can understand that's an overwhelming to understand. There needs to be training somehow. And I remember when I first started, it was my job almost 2 years ago. And when I started finding all this information out, there was a lot of gaps of understanding. And so I feel that the commission could find a way to set up proactively meetings with the leading people within agencies to explain the importance of consistency and stability with requesting interpreters in that process, and working with the Rhode Island Commission as a partner, because it's a state-to-state agency. They should be working together as a partner and not becoming barriers to each other. So I think it takes a lot of time, there's a lot of stress, and also looking at some of those litigation possibilities, because otherwise Rhode Island will be the next one on the list that the DOJ is being after with these litigations.
Thank you. Oh, my apologies. This is not a public comment right now. I let Bonnie share her comment. I should not have. If we could hold public comment, I apologize. I'm just trying to collect information. I did recognize what you had to say, though. Are there any other committee members who would like to add? Or actually, Drew, you had chatted. Do you want me to come up and sign it, or do you want me to?
Sure. So it's more of just a clarification question. We've mentioned about the MPA list and how to become licensed in Rhode Island, and that can be a very complex process. So I went online and I was looking at it, and it says here under the Department of License Regulation, and it's specifically for the deaf and hard of hearing. I don't know specifically what the history is, and if they have feedback from those that are licensed and the requirements. I know that's something else that could be looked into to try to improve the process and the efficiency of it.
Well, the person who knows the most is actually interpreting right now and cannot answer. However, my understanding, the answer is no. The licensing process is more of like a general licensing, like other kind of businesses. It's not really affiliated with anything. I mean, yeah, there are different interpreters in different states with different licenses, and it would make sense to develop some sort of regs, but the deaf and hard of hearing and the interpreters are kind of in one pool. And currently, my best understanding, there's a licensing board that the right people are involved on, but who manages the board doesn't really understand the intricacies of interpreting. So that's the problem. The laws and the regulations themselves don't really fit. And once we start unpacking that, there could be a lot of complications and a lot of work. Doesn't mean that we can't do it. But you're right, that is one part of the problem. And the MPA and the interpreters had put up a good fight before I moved here against the MPA process, but didn't get too far. So there are two parallels here. You're right, the licensing And, you know, that doesn't really reflect the deaf and hard of hearing people here in the community. It doesn't, you're right. So thank you. And if my comment was wrong, what I just stated, I think that was right, but if anybody could correct me if I'm wrong, that's fine. I can do more research. I'm not the expert, the subject matter expert, so I can do my research and let you guys know once I find something more. In terms of this committee, and we did talk about looking at other states in the region and comparing what's going on with each state and what are each state's requirements, because I know in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, they're pretty strong, but New York, they have nothing. They're pretty far behind. They have no licensing requirements at all. So we're not going to look into New York. However, I know Anne had asked me to put down on the agenda to discuss various regions and their interpreting procedure and CART procedure. So one idea could be assigning various members to look at various states, and everyone has their assigned state and comes back and shares what they learned, reports back on their referral process and what that looks like. So we could, that one idea is to go out and actively research that and see how it compares to Rhode Island. And I don't expect everyone to read everything. That's going to be time consuming. But if we could all do our part, and we could start from there, maybe there's something, I don't know. Does anybody want to come up and state their feedback? What do you think? Yes or no?
So far, Amy and Drew have said yes, they agree. Okay, I see Tana said that she's willing to take one state. Anne, what's your opinion? I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to state their opinion, whether they would agree with this or not. Okay, we can see if Anne wants to comment in the chat on that topic, and we'll proceed. Okay, so it means that we would need to assign different members and also look into currently what it is, the process is here in Rhode Island. We did talk about New Hampshire. Ernest also sent out some information on New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. I don't know if we want to add. I know Connecticut, the way that their system's set up, they don't have anything right now. And Massachusetts is the closest because they have a commission under the state. New Hampshire does not have a referral. It's private there. So it is done a little differently, but we could still look at it and compare and get some ideas. So if there's any other states that we want to add to this list, just note them in the chat. And Bethany, do you mind pulling up our agenda again? Okay, So any continued business, we had sharing information, identifying any issues. Should we move on from there to new business? Anyone put it in the chat? Let me know, yes or no. Okay. I'm seeing that people are ready to move on. Okay. So I wanted to make a proposal of an idea. I do need to check and ask Ernest. But one idea would be about the community. If they wanted to have one place of contact, one point of contact to share and be able to express and collect more ideas, those who can't come to the meeting and whatnot. What if we established a temporary email address that would be for the committee? And it would be for the purpose of collecting information that is specifically related to this committee's business. So that would be an idea. It would be a neutral email address, then is only set up for that purpose, and there would be a limited number of people who would have access to it. I think there's another committee, I believe it's the education, maybe, I'm not sure which one, but I think they did that. I'm not sure how much it's allowed. Yeah, okay. So we're asking to have the agenda taken down. We can have it come up again as needed. Okay, so the question would be to Ernest. Do you know if it is allowed for us to establish an email address, just a regular Gmail address that would just be a point of contact for the purpose of, for this committee to collect information from the community about any concerns or express ideas about how to improve the referral process? We're waiting for when Ernest pops his video up, and then we can have the interpreter summarize that for us. Just waiting to see Ernest.
That's a good idea, but I'd have to check with our legal department just to be sure that we're not violating anything. I know that commission is under the Open Meetings Act, and if that email is established, who would have access to that email? And I think we'd have to just clarify and see if it's permitted, and if it is, then we could establish an email under the commission, and that could go straight to the commission and collect information. So I'll have to check with legal, and I will follow up with you. That's the next meeting I can follow up with you, or via email. So Charlie is just restating what Ernest had said, and that we were going to check with legal, making sure that we are able to establish an email address and collect issues and concerns from the community via that email address. But we do have to check with the Open Meetings Act. So just making sure who has access to that email and that it is open to if it is open to the public. I'm not sure if we're able to do that or not, but we'll check with legal. And we'll follow up and let you know.
Okay. Just to clarify, Ernest, so if you do go ahead and find out that it's okay to have an email address, but it has to be shared with all of the committee, or I'm just wondering what the limitations and rules would be around. If it's possible to do an email, but there's specific limitations and regulations around it, it would be good to know. Or if there's just a flat no, that's also good to know. but specifically what regulations would be around, just a list of regulations that would assist us.
I will find that out for you and I'll communicate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy is saying, I have a question for Ernest, I guess more of. I'm wondering if we could, so the deaf community doesn't fully understand technology and Zoom, and I'm just wondering if, you know, there are a lot of concerns out there with the senior citizen population, the deaf population out there, and it just, I'm wondering if we can have a little bit of flexibility in terms of how we run this, just because of the technology and the audience. I'm also wondering if we could collect videos instead of written English or typed English. Obviously, a lot of deaf people would prefer to sign rather than to type. So if the deaf community could send it to the board instead of the commission, I think it might feel a little less resistant to the idea, if that makes sense. But again, the point is just to be a little bit lenient, please.
So what you just, your sign name I used incorrectly, what you just stated, Amy, that's why I'm wondering what are the limitations and regulations around this email so that we can be creative and find the best match for the community. So once we know what our bounds are, then we can also, from the commission, you know, could ask us as the committee, the ad hoc committee, to collect information from deaf people across Rhode Island, and they're not all going to be able to come to a meeting. And so we have to be creative on how we're going to collect that information, specifically those who are senior citizens, for those who are immigrants, and a number of other diverse people, those who are less familiar with technology, and think of the diverse populations that we're going to need to outreach to and collect more feedback from. And some of them may need some more support in that process. So if they contact us, we can also set up an appointment on a video phone and take some notes and on their feedback, and potentially some in person. Of course, right now that's a little bit hit or miss, but I know there's some requirements, but we can't meet all of those here during a committee meeting. So I'm wondering, from my perspective, you know, if we're still following Open Meetings Act, if we have a representative of the committee set up some meetings with community members one-on-one, just different members meeting with people, taking notes on their feedback, and community members being able to come back and share that information to an open committee meeting. Because so far, you know, we might have, oh, well, someone in the community told me that, or someone in the community told me that. We're getting that, but to me, it seems that that's the same kind of thing. You know, this is an open meeting, but some people aren't going to be able to participate in a meeting like this. It's impossible for them for several different reasons. Some of them, they can't find a way to call the commission as well. And some of them, you know, and I work with some of them in the community, they don't have a phone sometimes. They have no phone, they have no video phone, they don't use FaceTime, they don't know how to use email. And so if we were to meet with them in person, then we can by all means take that information and share it. But I think specifically with this email idea, it'd be able to set up one place where people could contact us. Because of course we can outreach to people, and we should, but if there's one place where people know they can contact us, like if you have a concern, email this address, send that information, or we can set up a time to do a video call, and that would hopefully would still work with the Open Meetings Act. Let me just check the chat for comments. Okay. So backing up a little bit, this might be slightly off point, but just reiterating, I made a mistake. At the beginning of our meeting, we had the deaf interpreter here, which is different than how it's been in the past. And I did not explain why that was the case. So I apologize for that. We just kind of jumped right into the meeting. So some people have been wondering why we've had a deaf interpreter here at our meeting. And there have been some requests from different members to have a deaf interpreter here. And some have asked me or asked for a deaf interpreter to interpret at specific times. So the deaf interpreter is here for any clarification. If we need clarification on any comments, we can ask. Or if you don't understand me, we can ask the deaf interpreter to clarify. Or if there's ever any misunderstandings and we need clarifications, we can go ahead and use the deaf interpreter as needed for clarification. So anyone can request clarification from the deaf interpreter, and you can also put that in the chat. You can just type, we want to, or if you request that we use the deaf interpreter the entire time, just put that in the chat. We're open to feedback. So hopefully that's clear at this point, and I apologize that that was not explained in the beginning. I think I was just so thrilled that we had a deaf interpreter here that I just jumped into the meeting and we proceeded. Just reading the comment in the chat. So I see in the chat, we have a message from Tina. Tina, do you want to turn your video on and explain that, or do you want me to sign what you wrote in the chat? I'll just wait a second. Okay. So Tina said to please sign what she wrote. So she's put in the chat, and actually exactly what I was thinking. She said perhaps is an email, we could set up an idea like that. And she was thinking along the same lines of me, is setting up a specific time at a specific location where we would be ready and open. There was already deaf or hard of hearing people there, or where it would be easy for people in the community to go to. Perhaps something like Perspectives or OSEL. Sorry, working all day. I think Perspectives, what was the third one? Oh, right, Tri-County, several other options. Maybe we could make use of those partnerships and set up some recording of people sharing their feedback and collecting information and data in person, and being able to record those on video. That way the people don't have to find a way to use technology and send an email. And if they're already there and it's a place that they already attend, it's a good opportunity to collect some of those stories and feedback. So I think that's a really great idea. I think we have to collect more feedback from those people who are less likely or feel that it's not worth their time, or try to really go out of our way because we really value their perspective in the community and encouraging them to provide that. So I think that's a really good idea. Also, hold on a second. We could also set something up at a senior center or a library or some other public place. The other addition that I wanted to say that was really great is on being able to have people video on the committee and about how to contact us, creating a video about this committee and explaining how to contact us and our purpose. And also to use a deaf interpreter or a deaf member to sign that video, which would be great. Amy.
I think I lost it. 1 second.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I agree with Tina's idea. One thing that I was thinking is that there are a lot of deaf people usually, I mean, many service providers usually let me know. And I feel like it's not only a service provider issue where the complaints are coming from, but it's more of getting all the information. so that it's relayed, that it's mediated. You know what I mean? So that it, so for example, a deaf person complains so that they know what to complain about specifically. Is it about maybe that interpreter wasn't good and they didn't understand the communication? So I think if they're going to be contacting someone, maybe me or Bonnie, me and Bonnie tend to
we tend to relay information from the community to the commission. To those who need a little bit more of an accessible approach to finding where do I have a complaint, where do I submit it? You know, is it a specific interpreter? Is it this process? And not sure, you know, where to submit it. There's a lot of people who ASL is not their first language. Maybe they're like have language deprivation, and their complaints about the interpreting process, to find the best way to relay that and where and how to relay it, we often end up being the mediators.
Yeah, that's clear. Thank you. So that has been mentioned several times during this committee as well. And the process, during the process, people are confused, or maybe it's not deaf friendly, or they're using English. So they really don't know, you know, they're being retaliated against. So I want to clarify that we have two different processes. We have the licensed complaint, where it's a formal grievance procedure. And that's separate. That's not in regards to the commission. The commission has nothing to do. The Rhode Island Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing does not have anything to do with the complaint. The complaints go to the Department of Health. My brain is starting to, yes, anyway, it's a separate entity. The commission is if someone wants to provide feedback, like what Amy was just talking about, including feedback. Not just saying, oh, I want to complain, I want to take that interpreter's license away or something like that. It's more like if the interpreter was late, you had an appointment, they showed up late, or it wasn't the best fit in terms of communication for you, to leave some sort of feedback. Let me know if the interpreter is coming or not. That kind of thing is more the commission-based inquiries. That part seems unclear to many deaf and hard of hearing people, because when I'm involved with CART, I don't know that there's always going to be CART there. I know we have talked about interpreters and the interpreter referral, and of course, feedback in terms of CART reporters too, because they function a little bit differently. Even though they're under the referral specialist, I'm not sure if they have any way to collect feedback in terms of CART. I don't want to kind of exclude CART from this. So maybe if we have two separate issues here. We have the serious complaint where the interpreters are breaking the code of ethics and you want to put in a grievance. And then we have, secondly, leaving feedback for the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. So the grievance procedure where interpreters break the code of ethics, that part isn't so easy to navigate. And it seems that many deaf and hard of hearing people don't know how to differentiate between the two. They don't know their rights. They don't know who to ask for what or where to give feedback. So I think the whole process needs to be clarified, maybe in a blog, and explain what the interpreter referral specialist collects feedback on and what our actual grievances, and maybe we could clarify that. Also, in other ways, it can be intimidating to leave feedback. We don't know what that would look like to leave feedback, but it seems some deaf and hard of hearing people are a little bit nervous to reach out to the Commission. Or they're felt like they're put on the spot and they're not comfortable letting their thoughts be known. So I'm just letting you know about different patterns I've noticed throughout the community. And if there's any other comments, that'd be great. If not, we can look back at the agenda.
One moment.
Okay. Amy said agenda, please. So the new business that was laid out on the agenda here, we got through that. I had proposed to maybe establish an email address, but we'll have to see. I have Ernest check into that in terms of legal advice and find out what is allowed and what is not. How are we going to collect more feedback from the community? You know, the people who are tough to reach, the people who are more vulnerable, and I think we need to talk about how we're going to reach out to them. We also have discussed setting up a time and a place to get one-on-one feedback in person. Yeah, where to collect information, right, Tina? Tina's idea, right? I'm also thinking maybe blog. I'm not, does anybody else have other ideas? For right now, if we don't, go ahead and start thinking about ideas, what we can do to get ourselves out there and collect some data. I don't know if there's some limits on what we share in terms of blogging. I'm not sure because we're under the commission. So I guess we'll have to find out what rules we're up against in terms of vlogs. So.
And also wanting to assign some different states for data collection. Is there anything else that member would like to comment before we open for public comments?
I think we can take the agenda off. Perfect, thank you. No members comments from the committee members? Okay, second to last. Public comment. Any additional public comments if they'd like to add anything, or maybe when we were discussing something came to mind, if you'd like to, you can take this opportunity to come on screen now. Seems nobody has any further comments, so public comment can be closed. I'll give one last opportunity for any member of the committee who'd like to state something. I do have two things though. I'd like to pick the next meeting date, and I'd also like to assign which state, which committee member is responsible for reporting back on, and also who's willing to take the minutes for the next meeting. So, any volunteers to take the minutes for the next meeting? You can send me something in chat. You only have to do one meeting, or if you want to do two, that's great. I can't do both. Don't make me twist your arm. Two?
Okay, yeah, I could do it. You? No, I'll do it. I'll do it first, Drew says, and then Amy, you can do it next.
Okay, so Drew will be the minute taker for the next meeting. And Drew, if you, for this meeting, to be ready for the next meeting, I'm sorry how I said that wrong, but I was planning to say, Tina, we're just, thinking the same today. So if you need any help or any support, I plan to say, just reach out to Tina. She'll be happy to help. If I can support, let me know. I can help you too. Thank you, Tina, for offering, and thank you, Drew. Tina, correct me. Okay, it's not for the next meeting, it's for this meeting. So we'd prefer to send them out before the next meeting so that we can look them over. So we might have to do that. For approval, we'll have to review them briefly at the beginning of next month's meeting. Amy, did you have something else you'd like to add?
Yes, I was hoping to see if we could request a job description for all the people who work within referral services, because I'd like to see what is the backup plan if one person is absent. How does the commission work as a team to fill in and cover for each other's roles as needed?
For both positions?
Both. And any contractors, any contract workers, just, yeah.
Right, so the referral specialist and the contract.
I'd like to see the job description so we can figure out how, what the backup plan for any challenges that arise.
Right, so in terms of talking about next month's meeting and the various regions and how we compare to Rhode Island, I think that would be nice to have the job descriptions. Ernest. I'll wait for Ernest, see if he's available. Perfect. Ernest, can you send out a job description for referral specialist and also the contractor?
Yes. Just to clarify the request, we have enough within referral, we have a specialist, but there's no contract under referral services. We want referral services, but right now, all of the jobs within referral, the job description, there's no contract positions within it. They all follow specifically the referral needs and how that's divided up and how it relates to referral services. But I can send you those job descriptions. Good?
Ernest, I'd say
saying, sure, we can send those, the referral positions, the job descriptions, but specifically there are not any contract specific descriptions. It's just under referral, the referral specialist. And so it's not officially parsed out what duties are assigned to any one contract. It's all under the same. So just so you're aware that any contract positions do not have an official job description. And so just it's underneath referral.
Thank you. I think that would be that was helpful to explain that. Thank you. If while we're looking at these, do you have any like
structural?
So how to do, so like once any processes of like, could you include any processes that you have just to give us a better idea of what we're working with?
Yes, I can send that to you on how things, the workflow within CART and interpreter referral and all of that.
Or chart, that's what I was referring to. Thank you.
I just wanted a little bit more clarification. I know you said that there's no job description for the contract workers, correct? So I think my point of clarification with the job description is I want to know what the commission's plan is for if the referral specialist is not there. So do you, as a commission, have an official backup plan on how the commission will continue to function if that happens? So that's specifically what I'm looking for. I hope that helps. Hold on. Amy, do you mind off?
Amy, to respond to you first, the reason that I had asked Ernest for the org chart is because I was hoping that we could see some of that information in the drop down of the org chart to show who was responsible for what and whose duties were designated where. Maybe it's not there, maybe I'm wrong, but that was just my purpose for asking. If you'd like more information and you'd like to clarify, come on screen. Oh, Amy said she's good. Okay. So Ernest, could you come back on? You'd like to add?
Yes. So Amy had what you requested for a specific plan for if a referral person is not there. Yes, we do have an emergency plan that falls into place, and we can certainly share that with you. So you know what the backup plan if referral specialist is not there, and any other information. I can share all three of those with you for sure. Ernest says yes. If their specialist is not there, then we do have an emergency backup plan, and I have that information as well as the referral specialist job description and the org chart and the emergency plan. So all three of those it can send to you so that you can look over them and see what the system and process is.
Great. I think that would be helpful. That would help us to get a good idea of whose job it is to do what. Thank you.
Okay. So I just wrote down the three. The first one was we finished the minutes, and sorry, my brain is shutting down for the evening. Let's take a look here. Oh, right. Pick a date. I see that Tina said that typically what we've been doing is 3 weeks out on a Monday night, but 3 weeks from now is Memorial Day. So Tina is suggesting that we either do that week, but pick a different day other than Monday, Memorial Day, or we can move it out to June 7th. Does anyone have an opinion for which way we go?
So for the minutes for the next meeting, Memorial Day, I'll be out.
The whole week. Sorry. Hold on a second. I had some things popping up on my screen. I couldn't see you. Do you mind repeating?
Oh, sure, I'll repeat. So as for the next meeting's notes, the week of Memorial Day, that entire week, I'm out.
Okay.
So maybe June 7th, the week of June 7th would be better. Just it's open to discussion.
Okay. So just to clarify for the notes, you are responsible for today's meeting's minutes.
Oh, I thought it was next month's meeting visit.
No, it's because we have CART. And so you can look at the CART transcript and then summarize it for the notes, the minutes. So I know it's a little bit confusing. I'm sorry I confused you with how that was presented.
So how would I do that? How soon do you need it?
So we would need it a few days before the next meeting.
Okay, I can do that. Can you send me everything?
Yep, we'll do.
Great, thanks.
We will need to submit the agenda and the minutes to Bethany, and she said she's going to email you the transcript, and we'll let you know when it's due for you to send it to Ernest and others so that it can be posted. Yeah. But do you still prefer June 7th because you aren't going to be there that week of Memorial Day? Okay, so that's your preference for the date choice. So Anne says either one will work for her. And asking 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We've been typically doing every 3 weeks. It doesn't have to be that, but that's how we've been functioning. Okay. Only Drew so far has said that she prefers June 7th and not the 24th or that week. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat for a second here. So it looks like June 7th is the consensus. June 7th seems to be best. People seem to have conflicts with the other dates mentioned. Okay. So do we want to go ahead with June 7th? Okay. Is there, I should say instead, is there any opposed to the choice of June 7th? Seeing everyone that's saying yes, they agree with June 7th. I'm going to just add that one committee member, I'm just seeing things pop up in the chat here. Oh, Tina just texts that it doesn't work for Bethany. Or doesn't work for Bethany. Okay, so there's a conflict. I think Tina means, is there a conflict with another committee meeting? Bethany, you're saying, can you check to see with the calendar? I think, do you just check to make sure there's no conflict with another committee meeting? Okay. Bethany says that she's going to go ahead and check now. So just coming back to what I was saying, that one committee member has not been here. The first meeting they were here, and that was Jen Maloney, but has not been to the committee since then. So I'm just letting you know that I've messaged everyone and have not had a response. So if anyone gets the email, I did email one directly, and I asked if she received the committee emails, and I haven't had a response. So I don't know if this day and time is not good for her, but we'll see how things proceed from here. And also, if you see Talia, we'll see with her when we send out the email. So hopefully all will be able to join on this date. Okay, so Bethany is saying there's no other committee meetings that night. Tina's saying she'll text Talia right now. Okay, and see if that works. So unless there's any final comments from any committee members, do we have any? Before we wrap up? Okay, so I think that's it for now. I will go ahead and create an agenda for our next meeting. And if you feel that there's something that's very essential that's put on the agenda, just respond to the group email, not only to me, but send it to all of the committee members, including Ernest and Holly, the entire committee. And so we can add it to the agenda within that group email. Okay, so we can go ahead and turn all of our videos on. We can see everyone. I know Anne does not have her video, but thank you, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, Johnny. Great. All right, I think we're done for the evening. All right.